even adults, it's sad to say that I speak to, in my business and transaction, what have you, where they can't even comprehend what a why is. I ask one of the key things I tell them is, what's your 5-year plan? Or your 10-year plan, which is based on a why, right? So my why is my why, and this is the 5-year plan these are the steps I'm going to take to get to my why. These inner city youth are coming out here, they have no clue, no concept, no idea of what their why is.
Greetings, family. This is Kyle Dixon, co-founder of Precise Minds Filmworks, educator for 20 plus years, cultural enthusiast.
And I'm Kayode Bentley, president and founder of 4T's Teaching Teens to Think, whose mission is to help inner city youth identify their inherent skill sets in order to complete their education, establish a career, and ultimately start a business, if they choose to. Professor at Fordham University, where I teach students who are pursuing their master's degree in social justice.
And with that said, welcome to the Grand Rising Collective, a podcast whose purpose is to cultivate greatness and excellence within ourselves and our communities. The name itself is from the morning greeting of Grand Rising, which we interpret as starting off the day with a greatness mindset so that we are able to rise to the occasion of whatever obstacles and challenges we may face.
And that's why we focus on engagement, relevant information, and empowerment for people in our communities who want to be and do better in their daily lives.
Welcome to the Grand Rising Collective.
So I can't tell you how many young people, even adults, and it's sad to say, that I speak to, in my business and transaction, what have you, where they can't even comprehend what a why is. I ask one of the key things I tell them is, what's your 5-year plan? Or your 10-year plan, which is based on a why, right? So my why is my why, and this is the 5-year plan these are the steps I'm going to take to get to my why. These inner city youth are coming out here, they have no clue, no concept, no idea of what their why is. How do you, if anything, what advice could you give to these inner city youth when they need to know that now?
And I think that's because that now you're, like you said, you're starting to get to the passion. That passion part is the hardest thing. Is what are you passionate about? And I mean, I guess the way that you could look at it is, I would say for younger people, what do you check out on YouTube? What is your YouTube channel? When you go to YouTube, what do you view? Whatever you view, that's probably what you're interested in. If you like watching games, or if you like watching comics, then that's what you're interested in. If you watch TED Talks about this and that, that's what you're interested in. If you like learning about money and looking up stuff, that's what you're interested in. That might be an area wherever you spend your time. That's your natural. You're already spending time in that area. It's just make some money from it.
I'm going to get granular with you.
Okay.
A lot of these young people have been indoctrinated by media. And media has been saturated with misogynistic music, such as the form of rap. So when I pose this question to these inner city youth, male and female, for example, I notice in getting to know them, YouTube is the big thing. And I try and promote like positive YouTube influencers, who are, doing comedy, or doing something constructive. I try and point that out to them. And there are some young YouTube influencers that have made money and been quite successful, and they're branched off and they're into business. They're starting their own production companies, things of that nature. But those are exceptions to the rule. My question to you is, how can I help these inner city youth who have been indoctrinated by media in the form of the hip hop, the rap music that's misogynistic? So if I ask them, what are you passionate about? What do you watch on YouTube? What do you invest most of your time in on YouTube? And their answer is hip hop music with this misogynistic music and these guns blaring, and interest or passion in that area can only end up in two areas, either in the ground or behind bars, for the most part.
Right.
What do I tell these inner city youth whose only vision that they have in regards to what they're passionate about is what they've been indoctrinated with by the media? What can I tell them?
I think that what you're seeing is a result of two separate areas. And the problem with that is the first area is you're seeing an industry that makes money, it makes a lot of money. And the first thing is you're seeing business in an industry. And the second thing is you're seeing a culture, which is the basis of a culture is a group, a foundation of morals. And that's the problem with that, is that when those two things intersect, we want those to both go to good. But when they don't go to good, then we have to understand where the breakdown happened in those two things. And what happened was, and the reason why I say that is, I can take another area and I can say, like, you can make a lot of money in hip hop, obviously. You can make a lot of money in rap or whatever. And rap is, when you look at in the Black community, rap hip hop, rap, like that whole music industry is probably been one of the biggest drivers of Black wealth. Like, I mean, when you start looking at areas, some of our most successful people, the reason we had a Black president was because we had a successful Black rapper. Like, so it's done a lot of good things, which you can also say that everything that humans do, like we just do, like there's no good or bad, because every side has a good and bad. You can even find in Mother Teresa, there's a lot of controversial things that Mother Teresa did. There's a lot of things that Gandhi did. You know what I'm saying? Everybody has a good and bad. So we can't look at it from a non-realistic, I'm a good person, that's a bad thing kind of perspective.
Very binary.
That's a very binary way of looking at it. It's not realistic, the first thing. And so that's the second thing. That's the first thing is that, can you make money in hip hop? Of course, you can make money in any industry. Now you start to get in what's the chances that you're going to make money and probability and things like that. Okay, you know when you get in, that's a low chance of success. But if you're willing to take that, that's no different than an entrepreneur or whatnot. Just like study your hustle, and I don't know what to tell you. Good luck. Like, really grind. Right. But now the other thing is, do you have to make, like, that, like my aunt, she calls it "Ooh baby, give it to me" music. If you're just making that because you think that's what's selling right now, then that's a problem with our culture. Is some people make that because they know that it's just entertainment. Other people don't know it's entertainment, and they see this already. They're in that life, and then they see this reinforcing that life, and then what happens is they really get caught up in it, and you see a lot of young rappers dying from this because they're actually living. And one of the things I was talking to my friend, one of my good friends, about is when we were kids, we had like the beef, whatever. When rappers beef,
the beef,
guns on TV. They don't really bang or anything. They just show them up and then they put them away. But these young rappers, they're really banging. Like, they're really going out and killing. If they're rapping about killing, they actually show the kills that they actually do.
Right, genocidal, real, like actual genocidal behavior.
Like this is real life, and so part of that came from the fact of this is originally entertainment, and they saw it, and then they internalized it, and that's the problem. Is I grew up with that same hip hop, and I didn't kill anybody, but that's because I had that foundation. I had good value. I had a moral compass, and I said, okay, this isn't real life, and I had somebody that could separate that. So I guess to answer your question, if you don't have those, we need to reach out to our Black youth and teach them our culture and our values. Once we teach them that, then they can recognize the difference between what's good behavior and what's not good behavior. And when you're already in a broken society, the problem is you're in a broken society. And when you're in a broken society and then you introduce this garbage into a broken society, then That's what's perpetuating it. It's the fact that that garbage reached a broken society. That's the problem. It's not. I wouldn't say. I mean, hip hop. They do a lot of bad things too. I'm not saying that they're scot free, but they're not the only answer. And it's not realistic to say, hey, you should rap about like rainbows and candy canes because that's nice. Don't rap about the real the real things and this other stuff when people are like, but that's selling. It's just you have to be able to distinguish the difference, and we need to reach out to our Black youth, and we need to teach them like, hey, you can't, if you can't treat a woman a certain way, and that's not how you need to treat her. Like, if you're rapping about, if you're rapping about that because that's how you make money, then I don't know. If you can't find any other way to make money, then I guess you have to feed your family and try to get out of that industry. Yes, that's no different than a girl that strips. If she's a stripper, if it's between stripping and being homeless, then I guess you have to strip. But once you save your money, get out of stripping. Like, take that money out and get out of it as soon as you can. Like, the first, it goes back to what we were saying. Eat the bread first and survive. But once you survive, try to get out of that situation as quickly as possible. And that's what's happening is once we realize, a lot of people don't realize, and they're like, oh, it's not so bad, blah, blah, blah. No, it's terrible. Our communities are broken. The places that we come up from are broken communities. And we try to treasure this shit. And sorry, excuse my language, but
no, that's real.
Yeah, no, you called it right. You called it right. That's exactly what it is. But again, that's not, and I want to go into that real quick, Tony. When we say that, family, we're not demeaning the people in those situations, because we have family and we have some of us who have been in those situations. Because one thing about association with a certain lifestyle, we begin to internalize that. We begin to say, well, the ghetto is me. No, you live in the ghetto. The ghetto don't live in you. That's something that you would put in for a reason to keep you in a certain place in society so that you're not a threat to your European counterparts. You know what I'm saying? It perpetuates white supremacist ideology. And I don't want to say white supremacy because it's the ideology. No one's supreme to me. So all my people. But just like you're saying, Tony, exactly. The environment that creates that behavior is only perpetuated through hip hop, certain hip hop songs, but hip hop alone or other things alone don't create it. They just perpetuate it. They're just another addition to behavior like that. But the catalyst and the seed of that behavior comes from the fact the environment, like you said, the environment is broken. It's disenfranchised. It's marginalized. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah.
Like you was also saying, like, how realistic, and I don't want to like bash on like Young Thug or whatever, but like I don't know his educational background, but to say that somebody like Young Thug is supposed to be the prophet, or he's supposed to be some kind of like giving intellectual advice to the youth, it's not realistic. That's not his job, and like, he's not equipped to do that. So whatever music he's gonna make is just gonna be about what he sees, and because a lot of the people that are making that music, that's all they see, and that's what they make music about. And so like like people like Jay-Z most recently, now he's rapping about other things because he has a different life. And now we're starting to see other people who are having different styles, and you see you're also there's a lot of other rappers that are like, hey, we have different things to rap about. We have different areas because we're experiencing different things. So we need to fix those communities. Like you said, if we think of those poor Black communities, they're just poor communities. Like we don't see the rich Black communities, so we just associate those places as like whatever. But no, those are just poor Black communities. We have a lot of examples of rich Black people doing things, and we don't show that. We have we have a lot of examples of people. Once we get out of that situation, we need to help other people get out of that situation. That doesn't necessarily mean take them out of the hood. That doesn't mean take them out of the Black communities. If we should be building Black communities ourselves with other people that also have money. There's a lot of places that in Chicago, there's Black middle class communities. There's like, what I mean? I'm sure in New York, we probably have places where you can go and you can see Black people and they're not poor. They're not doing things like it's not a rough neighborhood. We don't have to have that. So that's the first thing. A lot of us came from Black broken communities, and the first thing that we need to do is get our young brothers out of those communities. Man.
Bronzeville, Pill Hill, Chatham, like those are Chicago families. So, and you got New York, you got Harlem as one. You got places in Brooklyn, all over Brooklyn.
Brownsville in Brooklyn, South Bronx in the Bronx.
Yeah. Like you got all these different various communities of income and experience and skill and family dynamics that, is very diverse.
They don't want to show that. Like in the one thing that they want that we have to research, and the hardest part is, like you said, in the media, if you get general stream media, that's one thing. You're just getting the general information for everybody, which is probably not for us because we're not everybody. But the one thing that and even coming over here, and of course, like being in Japan, a lot of people are like, what do you think, Black culture and everything? And I'm like, man, like, I wouldn't want to be anybody else. Like, if you look at Black people, especially African American, we're the fastest growing group of people economically in the history of the world. And that's something that people don't want to recognize. And when you look at great cultures, anybody, you can even go into American history. American history is not growing as fast as Black America. There's no country on earth that is growing as fast as Black America. You can challenge it. You can go from 1865, 100 and something years ago, 100 whatever that is, years ago, 170 something years ago, to when you're just now a person, to fighting through rights and now finally being able to acquire land, to getting all that, to getting the average Black. I think the average income for a Black person is $34,000, which when you compare that on a global scale, and you know how many countries the GDP per capita is $34,000. Black people now make more money with fighting through everything we found. I think right now they said that Black America would be the eighth richest country in the world. If we were a country, we'd be the 8th richest country. I want to say we're just behind Mexico. I could look it up really quick, but yeah, it's definitely top 10 richest countries on earth is Black America. Just the U.S. That doesn't even start getting into the brothers in Canada and in the Caribbean and stuff like that, and how fast Nigeria and West Africa is coming up. That doesn't even include all the work that they're doing. I'm just talking about Black America and how fast you're growing economically in home ownership and like the Black business and entrepreneurship. We don't see these things. We look and say like how bad life is and how tough life is. If we compare our tough life now to the tough life of our grandparents, it's completely it's like like even our toughest life is coming up. Like on every metric, life expectancy, on literally every metric, we're growing. But they don't want to show how fast we're closing the gap. Like if you see that trajectory, it's going straight up. And now, like if you start going that out another generation or another 2 generations, like that's why they don't want to show that.
Let me interject this. Two questions, right? Or 2 statements. One, in reference of me and Kayode have talked about this before, the whole 1% dynamic. The whole we haven't moved but 1% since the early 1900s. That's one. That's the first kind of question. And then the second one is one that we talked about before in reference of, because I want to kind of stay in this zone a little bit in regards to the stereotypes of African Americans and you being in Japan. You being near Tokyo, Japan, and the concept you shared with me about the dress and the stereotypes of Black Americans or Black people in general, and how they have no concept of that, like the racist identity with certain clothing. Man, you gotta share that with the people.
Oh yeah, that's the one of the biggest things is that like we don't recognize how many things we've internalized as we just pick it up from other people unconsciously. And I remember growing up. Bill Cosby used to, pull your pants up, and start being professional. What we don't realize is when you go to other countries and other places, they don't look at you as anything. They don't look. I can walk around here with my pants sagging and whatever. Nobody's gonna look at me as a gangster, or nobody's gonna think of me as dangerous. I've tried it. And I've literally tried to like go out and look as dangerous as possible to see how many people cross the street. Because this was just a social experiment. I was just curious to doing. Like I just wanted to look like I was gonna rob a bank. People don't like, and like people will be like, "Oh, Kakui, you're so cool! Like you look like a K-pop star or something,"
Oh man!
And people just like what happens is we don't realize that like we've internalized this and said, "Oh, this is bad," because somebody told us this is bad. But the rest of the world doesn't look at us that way. People don't look at you any kind of way. And one of the things that I've noticed when I've come over here, and I've talked to a lot of other Black people, and a lot of people said the same thing, is they're not accepted as Japanese. Like I can speak a little bit of Japanese, but I can live here 30 years. I'll never be considered Japanese. But the racism that we experience here is just because we're a foreigner, no different than any other foreigner or a second generation person that came from Italy to America or whatever. You're just a foreigner, like you're Arnold Schwarzenegger, you're just from another country. But they're not discriminating against you because of your color. And that's something that's different, because when white people come over here, they experience almost exact same as I do. And they really don't like that. These people, can you believe they did this and this and this? And I'm like, this is nothing. Like, this is nothing. Like, shoot, compared to back home, man. Yeah. So that's the thing we don't realize, like how many things that, and I don't know, I don't even blame like the society in America, because it's so dog eat dog. Like if I was on top, I would want to be holding people down too. Like, I mean, if I ever get to the point where I'm on top, I'm gonna try to hold the other side down. Like, like, hey, but it just, that's what it is. Because in capitalism, it goes back to what I said, nobody's your friend.
Right.
We're not all trying to work together.
Right.
And that's one of the things that we don't realize is that because of that ideology, they're just trying to do whatever they can to stay on top.
Right.
And if they have to hold you down and they have to give you bad information, and it's up to you who does not do homework and you don't study and you just take the general media's advice, then you're just going to hold yourself down, which is good for them who's on top.
You said a lot.
Yeah, I know. When he mentioned that to me about the whole dress code and how we associate that with certain racist stereotypes and negative criminality, and then him being over in Japan, him wearing certain clothing, the sagging pants, the bandana, whatever. And they're like, oh, you're cool. Kind of like, oh, you're different. It's like, what? Like, it's how it's supposed to be, but that's not how we've been socialized here.
Yeah, like when you see Japanese people wearing do-rags, like it's cool. Like,
bro, didn't you say they got the lowrider club out there? Like,
yeah, they got lowrider. Like in like here, they have a lowrider club, like car club.
Wow.
Where I mean, they have like Cadillacs, 100-spoke rim. Like it's like here in Japan, like you have American classic cars that they have slammed to the ground. They put hydraulics on them, everything. Like because they see that on TV, they think it's cool, and they try to buy it and import it. And I mean, you can think of like how many Japanese hip hop companies that there were from. There's like there's so many that, because they see that and they're like, oh, that's cool, and they try to bring it over here, and but that happens all over the world, and that goes back to Kayode. That goes back to what you were saying about hip hop. Hip hop has touched every continent on Earth. From like you go to Africa and they're trying to produce hip hop. You go to Amsterdam, to France, and how they're trying to produce hip hop. You look in the UK and they're like, oh, that's so cool. what you were doing as an expression of your culture, even the "Ooh Baby Give It To Me" music, that's kind of cool. Like, we're gonna do the same thing. They're copying the same thing all over the world. Japanese hip hop, there's Chinese hip hop, like the whole, like, we don't recognize we have a product.
Right.
That product touches the entire world. That's a currency. We can use that.
Cultural currency.
That's a currency.
Currency.
Family. Thank you for real quick before we go back into the next question. Family, if you listen to us, this is Grand Rising Collective Podcast. We're here with guest Anthony Hudson out of Tokyo, Japan. Real time. What time is it out there, Tony? Just give real quick. What time is it out there right now?
I think it's 12:20.
12:20 the next day. We're speaking into the future. We're speaking into the future right now. If you're on here, you witness something live in effect. You know what I'm saying? You're in a different time zone. This is what we do at the Grand Rising Collective.
Cal, we talk about what were your thoughts, Tony, on this whole thing that's taken over social media regarding alpha male and the high value man and stuff like that?
Oh.
Yeah. Let's touch on that real quick. What have you heard, or what is your impression? Share with us what your take is on that.
Oh man, yeah. So I've listened to quite a bit from there's a guy, what's his name? Kevin Samuels, maybe?
Kevin Samuels.
I like a lot of the things he says. I mean, some of the time he goes a little too far. I'm like, you can't do that. But some of the ideas I like, in the fact of the one thing that he has made it the job of the black male to bring the black culture back, and I like that. And he's the one thing I notice almost on every single one of his podcasts is he's like, hey, sisters, we appreciate the role that you have played thus far, but you gotta have faith in the men in your community to bring the culture back. But at the same time, it's on the responsibility of the black men. Like he says, go get a job, get some money first, and and the women, you should be going after these men that have the money, and I mean, the way that he says it. But at the same time, it should be on the brothers to kind of bring back the culture. It's on us to bring it back. Like, if we consider ourselves warriors, and this kind of goes back to what we're talking about, being in the inner city and trying to bang and whatever, and we're trying to do is show, like, I control this. This is me. I'm a man or whatever. But what happens is we're showing it to the wrong people. We're showing it to the people that are next to us, and they're just like us. And we're trying to say, I'm a man, you're not a man. And we're over here pushing each other. The police come and we're like, oh, okay, well, or we're like, or we end up wilding out and getting shot because the police is like, I'm the one with the gun. Like, well, who are you? And they're like, then we end up getting shot. So, but you know what I'm saying? But like, what's happening here, we're doing it the wrong way. And what we need to be doing is, like, as far as if we're the man, then okay, what does that mean as that responsibility? If this is your block, okay, then what's your responsibility with your block? Like, how are you taking care of your block? Okay, it's your block now. Like, are you taking care of the kids? Are you making sure everybody gets to school and making money? Are you just focusing on you and saying you're the man, but then you're not doing any of the responsibilities that comes along with being a man? Like and that's everybody wants that job. And I think ET says that was everybody wants to be a lion until it comes to doing what the lions do. Okay, well, then that's the same thing. Like, if you throw up posts of gun pics, okay, cool, you got a lot of guns. Who are you protecting? Like, if you got, you know what I'm saying? Like, if you're showing like how much money you got, cool. Like, what are you spending your money on? Like, what are you investing in? Like, how many black companies do you have, or how many people did you put to work? If you're a boss, everybody's a boss. Like, how many black people did you put to work?
How many black people are you hiring on a consistent basis?
Yeah, we want the rewards. We want the name. Like, you know who I am. Okay, well, are you doing those responsibilities? Nah, man, I'm not doing that. But this is my job. Like, we don't want to look at that.
Yeah, and Tony, they call that clout chasing.
I want people to chase the clout. Like, once you get that, now you got it. It's yours. Like, once you show the house once you show this big house, this is your house. Take care of the house. If you don't take care of the house, you're gonna lose it, right? So it's the same thing. If this is yours, okay, cool. If you have it on Instagram and you spent too much money to get it, take care of that thing. Like pass that thing down, like whatever. Treasure that thing.
All right, so Tone, very good point, man. Good point. I'm glad you mentioned that. You allow me going different angles with this. So Cal and I spoke about this. We speak about this and have been speaking about this regularly. I think we have to factor in mental health. And Cal brought up, there's a book by Dr. Joy DeGruy called Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome. And Cal reminds me, nah, man, it's present traumatic slave syndrome.
Okay.
Right?
It's past, but it's present too. It's smack dead in our face. It has been going nowhere.
So with that said, brother, I think that, because, man, this is another level of conversation. There's levels to this. Another 3-hour conversation. We're not going to take it. But I'm just saying, what are your thoughts on that? Because before we can effectively utilize the resources that we have, because it was a joy to hear you say that as a culture we're in an upward, we're going up in regards to what we're achieving and the accomplishments we're making. That's not being exposed to us. We're just being fed the negative and not the positive. That was refreshing for me to hear, encouraging for me to hear. So, and in this technology age, we have access to more than we ever had before.
Right.
We can become business owners and successful overnight with the technology that we have. But the fact that we're not utilizing this I think has a lot to do with our mental state of being, where we are mentally. So my question, and I want to I want to hear your perspective on this, Cal, you too, is how does mental health play a role in that as a community, as it affects us as Black men and Black women, right? So how does the mental effect role play a role in that?
Well, I would go back to what Kyle was saying in terms of the people who the people who should be most the people who should push this the most should be our Black psychologists. When you look at how much Black research has been done by Black people, because we have Black psychologists. Yep. How much of them have researched this, and what are their solutions for our community? When we look at the problem, and this is a little bit different thinking. I know a lot of people are going to push back on me on this, but I personally believe we have to look at Black America as a country. It's a separate country. Our culture is not the same. It's the same thing as if you're American and you go to Japan, you're in a different culture. They eat different food. They speak differently. They have different clothes. Their education is different. Everything is different. Business is different. When you go into the Black community, you're in a different country. And people have said that every single, they're like, oh man, when you're in Chicago and you're on the north side and you go to the south side, it's a different world. It is, because it's a different country. And when you're in a different country, you have to understand, when you start to look at it that way, then as a country, what does a country need? And we need our own everything. So we don't just need psychologists. We need Black psychologists. We don't need doctors. We need Black doctors. We need finance people. We need Black finance people. We need Black educators. The problem comes when you're in education as an African-American person and you teach the same thing as your white counterpart, you're doing a disservice, because unless you move to a different country or you're in suburban America and you have to teach that, if you're teaching the wrong stuff to the wrong country, that's the thing. You're in Black America, and when you're in Black America, you have to help that group. So I say that because my question is, so then I would say, well, what I would do to answer your question is I would look at the Black psychology programs at the HBCUs and see how much research has been done on, because this should be one of the leading issues for Black psychologists right now. This is one of the most pressing things that Black psychologists, Black mental health, the mental health of the African American person. That's what we should be focused on. If you're a Black person and a psychologist, that's what you should focus on. But if you're not, then what's going on? I mean, because I'm not a psychologist, I can't figure out how we can. You see what I'm saying? Now we're together sitting here trying to do mental health. That's not our job. Like, we don't know that. The person who's trained in psychology should be telling us, hey, this is what we're doing.
This guy. All right, so Kyle, you want to answer that? Because I got one more question. I want to.
Man, he spoke it right. Like that's facts.
You gotta hold them accountable.
Yeah,
you gotta go. You have to ask them. If you meet a Black psychologist, that's the question you should ask them. You should be like, hey, how much research have you been doing on this? What have you found out? Like, this is an emergency for us. This is literally killing our people.
State of emergency.
You are one of us as our people. How are you helping us? Like, what are you doing? This is a national crisis. What are you doing to help us?
Yeah. Shout out to Dr. Joy DeGroot. That's one, because she is part of that collective that you're speaking of, Black psychologists. Shout out to my professor, Dr. Raymond Wimbush at Morgan State University. Respect Dr. Wimbush, because he was one of my professors, Black psychologist as well. You know what I'm saying? He has many books. You should definitely get Dr. Raymond Wimbush's book, The Warrior Method. Brother Dr. Jeff Menzie. He also has books as well. Dr. Joy DeGroot, get her books as well. You know what I'm saying? So I just want to put that plug in there for him.
Thank you so much. Okay, so 2 points I want to bring up.
Oh, and Dr. Frances Cress Wilson too. Get her books too.
Yeah, I got her in my library. I'm going to bring up. So there's a situation. There's this and Kyle, Grant, fantastic. Tony, excellent. I want to put this. I don't want to say it's a disclaimer, but I want to put this preference in there as far as a something to be aware of, because we have to be very careful, right? Because there are Black therapists and Black people in the mental field, but we have to be very careful of where they've been trained from, because we have a lot of people who have this complexion but have been brainwashed themselves that can do a lot of harm in that field to us as a culture, because their perspective is, their ingrainment has been from another. So we want to just make sure that those who are looking for help mentally, make sure they do their research on who they are, not just the color of the person's skin. The other thing I want to bring about, and I want to get, your feedback on that too, is, have you heard of the Tut language?
The which one?
Tut Look at Kyle laughing. Look at Kyle laughing. Okay. Yeah, brother. The Tut language.
Yeah, T-U-T. Yeah.
T-U-T. Okay. If you look up, it's a Tut language that was discovered in the South a couple of years ago. That's unique to us as a culture. It was code language that was unique to us from slavery, that we used that others couldn't understand. And it was how we communicated and survived as we were on this pilgrimage and getting to where we are today. So it's been around, but now it's resurging now, and it's on social media and stuff like that. And it's a language that we can use going forward, like Spanish have their own language. Yeah. Colombians have, we have officially our own language, and it's called Tut. So I want to encourage you to look at that, the alphabet and all that stuff. And if you need it, Kyle got it. If you need it, I'll send it to you.
Yeah. You shared it with me. I didn't know. I was not aware of it. It was, like you said, it was a language created during slavery. And of course, we have our African language, our original African language, of course. But I never knew a Tut. I doing my research, family. I didn't know, family. My bad. I didn't know. That's what I'm saying.
Real quick, and a goal for us, I would like for us to do and try and incorporate it with Grand Rising Collective, is to have discussions like this in Tut language, because that's what they're doing. They have on Facebook a Tut language group where, on Facebook you can put the Tut language in according to the alphabet and communicate that way. They're also doing Zoom calls where we're speaking to each other in Tut. So I want to just bring you all to that, and I'll send a link to you in regards to the Facebook groups that are doing. That's a good exercise for I think we should definitely look into and establish our own language.
Well,
That's it. I just want to throw that out there.
No, that's cool, because what you're saying is, with two things that are interesting is that, like you were saying, even we've always known that we're different. I mean, we're naturally different, and since we're different, to even try to, even the people that use the same language in a lot of people, like I remember when like Ebonics was like a really thing, and people were like, "Oh, why are you trying to make this a language?" And not, but what always happened was, even when people spoke proper English, they still we don't talk the same. We don't speak the same. We don't use the same words. We don't use the same diction. We don't use the same vocabulary or put it together the same way. We like what we don't realize is what people don't realize is because we're different, just naturally different. Then even speaking proper English, we're going to change it for our use. And that's no different than any other country. You can see the same thing with like Australian English to South African English, Jamaican English, Indian English. Like all these countries took this American English to British English. Once it got to a certain area, group of people, they just changed it for their own use. So what happens is when people are saying like we should speak proper English, even if you did speak proper English,
there's no such thing
for our own thing.
There really is no such thing. Right, proper English is contextual to the people you're speaking to,
and you're going to end up changing it anyway because you're like, we don't have a word for that. Well, let's make a word for that.
Right?
Like we don't. You. How do you explain this situation? Well, we never had that situation before, so we got to come up with our own stuff.
Exactly. That's right. Exactly. There's certain words that don't translate in other countries and other languages. So right. So even and family, I'm speaking this. I'm an English teacher, so I'm speaking from what I'm studying, what I know, and your best English literary professionals will tell you that honestly there is no such thing as correct English. It depends on the audience and the people and the culture and society that you're in. That's what it depends on. Like I may say "What's up," and that's okay. That's accepted in circles. And I may say "Hello, how are you doing?" That's accepted in these particular societal circles. So, but the key thing is, as long as that person understands you and you understand them, what can you say?
Purpose of communication.
Purpose of communication.
And now some of those words are starting to get into the dictionary. And they're starting to say things that originally nobody, just people said between each other, and then it started to grow. And in this situation, we just use it, and eventually it gets into the thing. And I remember
lexicon,
looking at
the lexicon,
the African American Vernacular English is what it's called. I guess that's the use. That's the name of all of the words that Black people have created for blacks for situations that they didn't have a word before. Like. We just create things like as a people. You have to celebrate the creation and how many things that we do and how many things come out of Black America as a country.
Right. I'll add real quick before I go into my next question. Even the fact when African Americans say things double speak, right? Like when we say it's hot, oh, it's hot. You know what I'm saying? like, oh, is it cold or is it cold? Like, no, it's cold. Like that comes from the motherland. That comes from our cultural ancient heritage back in Africa with certain regions in Africa. That has a historical lineage and context to it. So a lot of times, especially Tony, you being in Japan now and us still being here, we get to recognize again how deep the culture goes. Like we think these things that just start happening. But that's because we've been fragmented from our cultural history and our cultural heritage and lineage. So therefore we think, oh, we just created this now. No, this is something we're pulling from ancient, but it's in the context and created for use for now, for present day, 2021 or whatever the present day is. So so this ties into my question, right? How is it possible that in the early 1900s, we were at 1% of America's wealth and that we're still at 1%? They tell us that we're still at 1% of America's wealth. How is that possible if we're on a trajectory moving up? Because this is what they tell us. This is what they're saying to us. These are the stats floating around America,
I mean, I'd have to see, because I would find that I would have to see how I don't know. When you consider wealth, is that income or is that total number of assets held? Like what that would be considered. But what I would say in terms of, and that could be probably assets, I would think, because it can't be
assets.
income.
That's what I'm thinking, assets,
Yeah.
because they're
So
saying
then-
because they're trying to make the case of, and me and Kayode have talked about this on a number of occasions, that how is it that we were at 1% wealth in the early 1900s and now we're in 2021, and they're saying that we're at the equivalent of 1% wealth as we were previously in those years then. So, of course, our amount has moved up, but it's in comparison to the wealth now, it's still 1%. So I'm like,
I don't know. I would have to question that, because I would say that, like, if in terms of assets, you're right. Like, black people are behind in assets, but that's always been. I mean, even through history, like you can go back to Africa, and even in Africa, because of because of Africa, the dynamic, we didn't treasure land-based assets, like real estate and owning a plot of land. It wasn't as important, and even
culture. Our culture.
Yeah. So we don't have that kind of hey, you need to buy a piece of real estate and settle down, and that's kind of counter to how historical our culture. But in terms of, but at the same time, like, we've always found other ways of making money, whether that's through patents, or whether that's through intellectual property and creating music or entertainment, or making money from things that we do and things like that. Those are things that we traditionally have treasured more than what we own and what we have, and trying to build off of that. So that it could be, if you say 1% of the wealth, I would really question what that wealth measurement is, because that definitely doesn't tell the true picture of especially of the wealth of America. And that's the first thing I would say to that. And then kind of going back to what Kayode was saying, is that, like, with when you were saying you have to be careful on where somebody has been educated to where their education and what they produce. I don't want to defend other people, but there is no answer. And so everybody's coming up with everything. And even if you look in American culture right now, we don't know which way to go. Some people are saying Democrat, some people are saying Republican, some people are saying, we need to work together. And then, like, the Trump side is like, hey, I got it, you get it. Like, it's about competition and fighting and stuff like that. And we don't, even in that group of people, they're like coming up with all kinds of different things. So for even in Black America, for people to come up with differing opinions on, we need to work together, or we need to do this, or we need to be revolutionaries, or we need to be radical. I mean, that's just natural from a group of people to try to figure out which way should we go. Like, this has never been done before. We've never been in this position before. And so there's always been debates, and there are always going to be those different, as long as we recognize that we have to look out for ourselves. Black America, as long as you're doing whatever you think is best for us, it's probably the best.
And it's funny you mentioned that we got. See, you shouldn't say you had more than an hour, Tony. By the way, Tony's in Japan, yo. This is Tony's cat, because we're gonna keep you off long. So at that point, I was just thinking about this the past days. We're living in, and you're right, Tony. We're living in a time of uncertainty more than ever before. Like, I think I classified it, or I gave it a timeline of since 2000 and 9/11, when the planes hit the World Trade Center. I think that rocked us as a society, because we thought we were invincible, right? We thought we were untouchable. And when that hit, both towers came down. I think it brought about a sense of fear, a sense of division, under the guise of just work together, what have you. But I think since that happened, we have all been like, we don't know what's going on. And then it was trauma after trauma. It was after 9/11, 2008, and the financial collapse. So now people who thought they had their retirement set, that's white, that's gone, right? So I mean, there were a whole bunch of. So I think now, and then we have currently COVID, right, where we have the quarantine and people dying in mass numbers on a different scale. So it's been like over the span of 10 years, we've had all these atrocities that has taken place, and it's making very difficult for not only Blacks but society as a whole to mentally, make sense of this and process this. And we don't know what the future holds. We're just taking it one day at a time. So I'm just saying that to go to your point, in this day and age, that we're taking it one day at a time, and it's just uncertainty, man. And we're trying to figure out what do you want to say, Tony? What you want to say?
That is the greatest. What's interesting is what can be your biggest liability can also be your greatest asset. And in this situation, going back to what I was saying, like I think the future of Black America is even brighter than it's ever been. And going back to, because like you were saying, if there's a time of uncertainty, who is the best group of people on earth that has dealt with uncertainty? Like how many people, you know what I'm saying? Like how you could just go back through how many relatives and family members have been through difficult situations. Like we are built for difficult situations. Like I always said, I mean, and you know, not to cause too much division in America, but when the planes hit on 9/11, they flew by the hood. They flew over the hood. They didn't hit them. I mean, you know, they didn't hit the projects. They were aiming at certain buildings. So you know, you could say, hey, well, blah blah, they're trying to hit all of us. I'm like, well, you know, whoever was mad.
Very designated target, unfortunately. Very designated target.
They weren't mad about the hood. So, but like you were saying, you know, like, it causes that regardless, we're in this situation now. And because of being in this situation, it's caused a bit of uncertainty. This is just business as usual for us. Like we've always been in uncertain situations. The future of Blacks has always been uncertain. This is just what's happening is other people are coming to our level. They've never had to compete here. We've always had to compete here. And like going to those situations where we've had nothing, like that sounds familiar. You know what I mean? Like other people are coming down here and they're like, damn, this sucks. And you're like, yeah, this is regular. Like, you know, when you're talking about people dying every day and stuff like that, like you could probably also say, well, yeah, I have cousins that live in that same environment where people die from a lot of other things that not just COVID. Like, you know, and so what happens is other people, when they start to get into your environment, they can't compete with you and they don't want to compete with you. That's why they don't want to be down there. So what's interesting is once you recognize that people are down in your environment, I mean, you got to take advantage of that. And it's for us to thrive. Like I really think, and that goes back to the future of Black America, you're going to see a lot of great things come out. You're going to see a lot of great companies. You're going to see a lot of great ideas. You're going to see a lot of things that people are they might end up taking, but you know, people are going to copy or whatever, because they're going to see the success from the innovation and they're not used to innovating. And when you're at the top, and I've always said, when you're at the top, the people who are at the top don't work as hard as the people at the bottom. And the reason being is because what's the purpose of being on the top? You go to the top so you don't have to work as hard as the people on the bottom. So if you're not working as hard, then you're not used to working hard. And when you get down to that level, you don't want to compete with people who work hard. So that's why, like, you know, immigrants, they're used to working, you know, 2 jobs, 3 jobs. Everybody I know has 2 jobs, 3 jobs. Like, working is just what we do. It's in our family. That's just how things go. Like, we got to work. Like, if you want to eat, you got to work. So now that other people are like, oh, my 401k is wiped out, what am I going to do? You're going to go to work. Like, you know, what's going to happen with my future? Like, you got to go build it. Like, you know, that's what we do. I don't understand like how things are different.
Wow, this guy. Oh, you know what I think, Cal? I think the first video we had with Tony, right? He was in a restaurant and he had to talk like this.
That
That's his own space. He's like, this is what I wanted to say the first time.
Right.
Man. Tony, before I want to hear your final words. Anything you want to drop on us, and don't forget
you're working on
your handles, man, your social media handles, whatever you want to talk. However you want to do it. We really want to hear your final words and your handles, because we really appreciate you, brother. From Japan, we got Japan up in the house, right here, right now, dropping some knowledge. Is there anything? By the way, before we even go there, is there any topics we didn't cover that you might want to address that we want to talk about? Is there anything we missed?
Can't think of anything.
Okay, there you go. Donations, family. Donations. See if y'all want them extra topics. Donations. We'll take $1. What it say? We like the kind we'll take the kind that jingles, but we like to take the kind that folds. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, hey, drop it, Grand Rising Collective, Cash App. You know what I'm saying? But no, on the real. I mean, because we're talking about finances, right? I mean, hey, this is a podcast. We're trying to give y'all gems. We asking for donations because it takes resources to do this, family. And we're trying to give you knowledge and solutions to help better yourself so you can afford to give $1. You know what I'm saying? So that's why, and we got some other stuff coming for you for sure. But this brother, took time out of his day in another country, in another time, not time zone, time zones. He's into the next day. He is literally in the future of where we gonna be in about
6 hours.
6 hours. Yeah.
6 hours?
Yeah, 6 hours. Yeah, 6 hours. Yeah. So, but no, Tony, man, drop your handles, things you're working on, so people can check you out.
Yeah, and your final words. Before you do that, your final words. Give us your final words if you have any, and then drop your handles and where people can reach out, where we can reach out to you and contact.
Yes.
Definitely. Yeah. No, I was just gonna say, no matter what you're doing, if it's big or small, then don't compare yourself to other people, and don't compare it to a lot of people are building small projects, and we never know what those projects can turn into or whatnot. And don't chase anybody else's dream in terms of, the stock market is not for everybody. If whatever you're doing, if you keep doing that and you're great at that, then you're going to make a ton of money in that, and you never have to touch it. So whatever you're doing, keep building that, because we need people who are building those things. So do your area. And that's the biggest thing. Become an expert in that area, and people will work with you to build something great. And so, and based on, and that's what I can say. And also work with other people who are experts in that area. I'm on Facebook. Anthony Hudson is my name. Usually we use Line over here, so I don't really use like Instagram too much or anything like that. But definitely reach out to me. If you have a question with something, or if you want to talk about something, or if you want to come to Japan, or if you're in the area, anything, like we need to work together. And if you just have a question about finance, shoot me a message. I'll shoot back. anthonyr.hudson@gmail.com. That's my email. If I can't find the answer, I'll find somebody that can find the answer for you. It's because we all don't know. It's about doing the homework, getting the research, and getting answers to what we need to do. So, that's just the biggest thing, is we need to work together to build something. So yeah, hit me up. I'm not unreachable. Hope to see you guys soon, man.
This brother Tony he's in an after school program in Japan, where they're teaching young people. I think the next project they're going to work on is lemonade stand, and basically what it comes down to is applying the knowledge that they're learning in the form of English as well. So he's doing great things in Japan, and he's teaching them the application of what you learn in comparison to what's here in the United States. So I'm very proud of this brother. That was very influential on me. Thank you so much. Keep up the great work.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Tony, for rocking with us, man. Thank you for just having a good talk with us, breaking down the crypto, the Bitcoin, education, the market, resources, how we need to be looking at things, because the job market is crazy over here right now. I don't know how it is in Tokyo, but it's crazy right now. And a lot of people are leaving their jobs. Some people are getting laid off. A lot of people are leaving because we talk about quality of life, but a lot of right, which is the opportunity, right? Like you said, opportunity to maybe start your own company, start your own business, right? And no one's saying you can't have both, a 9-to-5 and your own job, but it's always great to have your own family.
And Cal, don't forget to interject. It's that big work from home thing that took place through quarantine, where people are like, nah, forget this. I'm not heading back to the office. If I can't work from home, I'm not going back. So I just wanted to interject.
Exactly. The WFH, work from home scenarios. Yeah, family, again, combine our resources. We're working from home, we got communication, we got time, more time than we think we have, and use it wisely, use it properly. You know what I'm saying? Connect with other folks that are just like you. That's how me and Kayode started the podcast. We're working on a podcast. We're hoping, no, we're not hoping, we're striving to provide you with proper solutions and strategies toward your success. And that way, if you're successful, we're successful. So don't forget to subscribe to the Grand Rising Collective YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe to this Facebook channel that we're on right now, the Facebook Grand Rising Collective Facebook channel. We're on Instagram, Grand Rising Collective. We're on Twitter, Grand Rising Collective. And we're on LinkedIn, Grand Rising Collective. So we're all over the space, family. There's no stone unturned, okay? All right? So, again, subscribe, share, like, and like I said, donate. All right, donate. We take donations. We're not, we're not hesitant to ask. You know what I'm saying? So because we want to provide y'all with the best information. So if you got $1, a few cents, definitely drop it in our Cash App, Grand Rising COL1. All right. And without further ado, family, thank you for rocking with us tonight. Right, it's been a nice, thorough convo with our brother in the other country, Japan. All right, Mr. Anthony Hudson. And yeah, without further ado, we're gonna sign out, y'all.
All right, so here we go. We're gonna do 1, 2, 3, peace. On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3, peace.